We have Mr. Willie May, Vice President, Research and Economic Development here at Morgan State University. He will be our moderator extraordinaire, and he'll introduce his panel. Thank you.
I'm Willie E. May, VP for Research and Economic Development here at Morgan State University. And in my past life, I was the Undersecretary of the Department of Commerce for Standards and Technology and the Director of the institution that the young lady just mentioned, the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And this afternoon, I have a very exciting panel to share some wisdom with you. To my immediate left, we have Mr. Ray Dizon, who currently serves as the Associate Director for the Morgan State University's Office of Technology Transfer. And I would say Morgan has one of the top tech transfer programs in the U.S., at least in universities, not among HBCUs, but among universities, period. If you index their output to research expenditures, they're in the top 10 in almost every category. In Ray's role, he guides faculty and students, staff and students through the intellectual property process. So all of these minefields that you've been hearing about, folks here come to Ray, and he helps to lead the way. Also on the panel, we're missing one panel member, Mr. Ivy Baker, who is an entrepreneur and intellectual property advocate. He brings a whole bunch of experience of entrepreneurial experience to his current position, having established, it says here, a food startup while pursuing his law degree and Master of Business Administration at Howard. So we'll hear from Ivy as well. And hopefully before we finish, we will have our third panel member join us. And if we are not fortunate enough for that, these guys have a bit more time. Miss Shemaine Davis, who is Director of Entrepreneurship for the Greater Washington Urban League, should also hopefully be joining us. So Ray, talk to us.
Okay, let's see if this is working here. Can you hear me okay? All right, good. I'm Ray Dizon. I'm with the Office of Technology Transfer. It's a relatively new office, actually. We ramped up pretty quickly. It began in 2017. And at that point, I think Morgan State might have had one patent on the books. And actually what we've done is we had a 5-year strategic plan. We started doing a lot of outreach to faculty, staff, graduate students, undergrads too, as well. And, we're on the path to quickly getting a pretty nice patent portfolio consisting of, I guess, I can give you the whole process here. I'll talk about IP disclosures. I'll talk about provisional patents. I'll talk about patent applications. Provisional patents and patent applications are both in the same realm, and then the actual issued patents. Okay, so I don't have metrics for that. I was gonna leave that to our boss to do that next time because I don't want to totally overlap with what he's doing. So I thought I'd just talk more about the process and how we do things at the office.
But Ray, you teased us. You talked about maybe I think before 2010, Morgan didn't have any patents.
Correct.
And now we have how many?
Well, we have about 15. In fact, we got an announcement today that we're going to have another one issued in the next few weeks. And actually, there was another one last week where there's going to be another issuance. So they're starting to come in.
And the interesting thing is that we brag to our border regions always about the fact that over half of those patents involve student inventors.
True. And it's hard to tout patents in a sense because we don't always control the issuance of patents because, as you might have gotten some description, it takes a long time to get a patent. I mean, I was involved in one other tech transfer office, and it took 6 years to get one from the time there was an application. And it went through office actions, and it went back and forth between lawyers, ourselves, and the examiners, and it probably cost $60,000 at the end for that one. So just, that's the high end of things. I mean, a lot of them will probably only cost maybe $10,000, maybe a little more than that. But I'm just giving you an idea of what happens through the process. And it is very long, but we do what we can to protect intellectual property on behalf of Morgan State University. Again, there are a number of students who are involved. Certainly, if folks who are doing internships, there are postdocs out there, other folks involved, because we are trying to build a next generation of entrepreneurs and engineers and other folks in their specialties. So again, we're very encouraging of that. So do you want? Why don't you go ahead? Go ahead.
Okay. Once again, my name is Ivy Baker IV. I'm a business consultant with the Maryland Small Business Development Center. And I may have kind of more like a monologue today, but feel free to chime in. I actually wanted to take a step back and talk about the purpose of what we're sharing about, protecting intellectual property. And this is coming from a place to really hit your mind, how you think, ultimately what you believe, and also your heart and how you feel from your investment of time and creativity. So this is really something for subconscious thinking internally of each entrepreneur represented here, each creator here, because as it was stated before earlier, this is personal. It is serious when you come to this area of property. And I'll be brief, but I think I may have a little bit more time. So yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of that fully.
Got to 4 o'clock.
Okay. Well, let's go. This won't be a sermon, but it's gonna be something specific for each and every person online and those in person. I wrote this early morning Sunday, so hopefully it doesn't come off as a sermon, but it's all true. I want to share a bit of knowledge and ultimately give you all some game. And it's more than $1 million worth of game, and I'll show you why as I continue to speak.
I'm going to ask you to restrict your comments now to about 5 minutes, and let's have an interactive conversation.
Let's do it. Okay. So my purpose is threefold. I want you to know about, have some knowledge and wisdom. As far as information is available to you. You get a sense of direction, preparing yourself when you do business and intellectual property. So you're able to do your research. You shop around for expertise, especially with legal representation. One good story is one from Oprah Winfrey when she was going and she was getting promotions every year with this attorney that was described to be a good guy. She fired him and got someone who was described to be an absolute, whiff of an attorney. And she transitioned to ownership, saying she wanted to gain portions of the network. And I think that was a great decision. And lastly, you want to be able to make good decisions. Intellectual property comes down to leverage. So you want to position yourself very well, whether you're dealing with manufacturers, partnerships in business along the way. So I got 3 quick stories, and I'll keep it in that time frame. Story A is something that drew me in law school to property. It's about hunting. As entrepreneurs, you are hunting. Someone presented it to me as, you have to kill what you eat. So let's say person A goes out and kills a deer, but they forget their bag. They're net to take this deer home and enjoy the substance of it. But person B comes along to this deer that's killed just in time before it deteriorates. Is it wrong for person B to go off somewhere else with this deer that was killed? That's the question you have to ask yourself when dealing with certain aspects of property. Now, person C may catch you just in time and say, okay, well, hey, person A, you forgot this. I can help you along the way to get you where you want to go. But since I'm helping you, maybe we got to split this 50-50. Now, the metaphor of that story is someone was unprepared and they did all the work to kill this deer and they could feed their family and things like that. So you don't want to be unprepared. You know, you want to bring your bag. Some people, the young people say, secure your bag, you know, be in your bag. And that's how the nature of property can be, especially intellectual property. Additionally, intellectual property is a constitutional right to it. You know, I'll quote Article 1, Section 8, which states to promote the progress of science and useful arts, secure for a limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discovery. So this is something that was embedded in the Constitution, and you should be able to take full advantage of it. Would you like some questions in between?
Just one comment before I open it up to questions. You guys are very, very fortunate. You're living in a very, very opportune time right now in the time of name, image, likeness, and so forth, so that you can gain some benefit for your athletic prowess. Well, this is gaining benefit from your intellectual prowess, as it turns out. And he mentioned something from the Constitution where it talks about for science and so forth. Well, the agency that I used to direct, 5 Nobel Prizes since 1997. So some of the smartest people on the planet work for this agency. And I spent 45 years there. But I didn't say I was one of the smartest. I snuck through. But we, early on during our career, we weren't as enlightened. And this wasn't just NIST, this was throughout. We scientists wanted to publish, get notoriety, and go around the globe talking about what we did. When you think about that, that wasn't good for us personally in the long term necessarily, and it certainly wasn't good for the US because people from around the globe are stealing our intellectual property. So now there's been a refocus on the interest, and the young lady, actually like a daughter to me almost, who is now the director of NIST, has 15 patents and 5 companies that she started. So even at an archaic institution like the one I used to, we see the world differently. So you guys are living in an opportune time to take advantage of your mind, the power of your mind and your ideas. So I really commend the PTO and Morgan for hosting this session. So any questions? We didn't come here to talk at you, we came here to talk with you. So questions?
A little bit about NIST and how, in my scenario, how could you help me? In the scenario that I had where there's a manufacturer here in the US, but they have affiliates outside, and she was saying that their NIST now has a program that kind of connects the two or navigates the two. How would that, in a sense,
Okay,
help me?
I'm going to give you an answer and then I'm going to say, let's talk after this.
Right.
The program that she was talking about is a program called the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, where NIST has a manufacturing extension center in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and someplace else. And the purpose of those centers are to work with manufacturers to help them develop their manufacturing technologies. So it's unlike the NIST laboratory program where high science and so forth. This is more on manufacturing and the establishment of manufacturing businesses throughout the US. But I can give you more details on that offline.
I could build upon that too. I mean, there are a number of agencies that it's not limited to NIST, say, for instance. I mean, a whole number of government agencies, the services, Navy, Army, et cetera, they issue these, what they call SBIRs, which are Small Business Innovation Research grant proposals. And you basically can either apply as a company, or you can actually collaborate with an institution like Morgan State University. So you can actually leverage a lot of the research that we've done and bring that to the table as well.
Since we're talking about this, why don't you mention the TEDCO, the MII that you used to be a part of?
Well, used to be, still a part of.
My bad. My bad.
That's okay. No. Actually, I was going to talk a little bit about state programs and other sources of money. Willie's actually referring to something called the Maryland Innovation Initiative, and it's out of TEDCO. Did you? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, my fault. Okay. It's actually out of TEDCO, which is located in Columbia. There are two, I'll call it two phases, because the first one's called a phase 1/2. And you can actually, it's actually more from the university side, which is any university research can get funded, because what they're trying to do is help to commercialize technologies in the same way we do, but they have their own monies to do that. And they supply $100,000 for the basic research, and another $15,000 to do things like market research to determine the commercial potential of that particular technology. And then there's also a phase 3, which is actually, it's been increased up to $300,000 more recently, and that can be done. That can actually be applied to by a company, and the company would have to actually be licensing something that comes out of one of the university systems. So there are qualifying university systems, for instance, ourselves, Johns Hopkins, Coppin State, Bowie State, University of Maryland, Maine campus, UMBC, UMB, just as, folks you can look to if you're trying to get involved in that particular program. But they're, again, they are certainly looking for applicants at this point. I believe that there's another cycle that actually has a deadline of March 1st. They have a deadline every 2 months.
Okay.
Just to let you know about that.
And just to clarify, for the particular program you're talking about, the MII, only 5 universities are part of that. I think Bowie State, Coppin are part of a different program. The 5 universities that are part of MII are Morgan, the only HBCU at this point, UMB, UMBC, College Park, and Hopkins. And those opportunities are for both faculty and students at those universities, and they go through a competitive process that is quite stringent, and right now in the process of trying to smooth that out and have a broader definition of intellectual property and innovation to be more inclusive.
And then, sorry. We also get involved with something called the Maryland Industrial Partnerships, and that's actually administered out of the University of Maryland, Maine campus. And just to give you an example there, we usually get involved with phase 1 grants, and they can be for up to $100,000. Typically, a company will apply for it, and what they're trying to do is leverage university research for that. So if you applied for that and you said you wanted to do this type of work, we as in Morgan State, say for instance, if you were collaborating with us, would execute the work, and there would be money supplied by the program, and then there would be some company match. Usually if it's a startup, it's about 10% of those monies. So that's yet another program. And, we can cite some other ones too as well. But on the federal side, certainly the SBIRs that I alluded to, you can look at, obviously, they differ a little bit with regards to what, how much they allocate for that for each company. Like, for instance, the Air Force recently changed some of the guidance on that, so that instead of giving you $150,000 followed by $750,000 in a phase 2, they decided to spread the wealth a little bit. And now it's more like $50,000 per, and then graduate to $750,000.
So the bottom line is there are resources out there for people who are aspiring entrepreneurs. So, Mr. Baker, let me ask him a question, and then I'll get to you if I can.
Absolutely.
If someone out there were to ask you what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, what would that be? And then we'll go to the young lady there.
Absolutely. Entrepreneurship is something dear to me. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. So, from a lot of areas that looks similar to the city in Baltimore. But for me, I wanted to apply what I was learning in real life, not just study it, not just take a test and get a passing grade. I really had to get involved to see, if this can be a reality. And I wanted to put myself through those experiences in life, so I wouldn't just talk about it. You know, I could actually have some understanding, some experience, not only to show, but to learn from and to continue to grow. So whether I was in law school or business school, I wasn't looking to prepare myself to always work for someone. I wanted to create something, become independent, and intellectual property was one subject that just blew my mind in law school. And the first thing I did was, you know, I started a small bakery business and got a trademark. Filed the application myself, pro se. Was okay, I can do that. My business partner at the time, now my wife and mother of 3 kids, she did all the administrative things on the business side, and we put our minds together and we created something. And we had to pivot quite a bit. It wasn't, you know, instant success, but we never gave up. So it really was just whatever seed was planted in me as a child, and going to graduate school and things that just propelled me to keep going.
So living out your dream.
Exactly. 100%.
Young lady here on the front row.
Had a question for you. You're also with the Small Business Development Center.
Correct.
Could you speak on any resources that Maryland may have for small business owners or connections, say mentorships such as SCORE?
Yeah. So we deal with a lot of unique entrepreneurs, unique businesses, and there's not a one-size-fit-all equation for what your business needs. But the good thing about the Development Center is that our consultants do our best to help you get to the right resources for your needs. The question in the audience was about a prototype and non-disclosure agreements. So we don't provide legal advice, but we try to connect you with experts in those specific areas of the law. Also, the prototype takes some funding, so we want to get you with the best funding, whether that's a women-owned business, minority-owned business, get you to be prepared to, you know, file applications for grants or loans. Some people are so ahead of it that they haven't even created a business plan. So we want you to have a strong foundation, and we want to address your situation specifically for you. So we want to see where you are in business. Some people are pre-adventure research phase. We want to match where you are in business with the needs you have going forward with the best resources in this city. And there are tons of resources ranging from the financial aspect things or information as far as research, as far as legal advice, you name it. And I deal with companies from construction to childcare, driving schools, food industry. So it's a variety of things, but that's such the beauty, you know, of being an entrepreneur. There's no limit. There's so many things you can go after. So we provide those resources.
Other questions, comments? Young man in the back. If you'll stand up and
Absolutely.
state your name.
Sure, my name is Savon Wilson. I was just asking more about the Maryland Small Business Development Center. Question would be, it was Chico when he stated one of the last advices that he would give to the crowd was to just start. I think that a lot of us just started, and that we are, you know, we're in some form or facet of the business that we would like to see grow. So when I think about reading Maryland Small Business Development Centers, and after just hearing what you just said, what would be the advice that you would say to bring to you? Like, I'm assuming there's an office that I could come into to get that assistance, or maybe just call or come on, you know, to you guys or see you guys online. But what advice would you have for that person that has started their business, that has grown and accumulated some level of success in what they're doing, so they don't see it as just a hobby anymore? That person that's just above that niche of this is not just something to do. Personally, I've been in entrepreneurship for 3 years, sustaining myself, my home, my business, but I'm looking to take it to the next level, in which case something like this seminar just stood out. And it was something that I had to bring myself to do. So I had to shut down my business to literally come, because I'm not only an entrepreneur, I'm actually self-employed. So being the person who operates my business, I'm just wondering, what do you recommend for someone to bring to your office or to bring to your lap for you to give us what we need? Because not everybody knows, you know, every step. So far you have people who have LLCs. Sorry that I'm babbling, but so far you have people who have LLCs, you have people who have created their name. It wasn't until I spoke with Chico maybe 2 years ago that I understood the intellectual property wasn't protected that I already have accumulated just by me having an LLC. So these are all things that I'm just trying to get out of this seminar, at least the resources of where to go. So I'm wondering, what do I come to you with in order to help me develop?
Yes, that's an awesome question. So if I to answer your question, we start with the initial consultation. I'll be sharing my PR code for you all to conveniently set up an appointment with me anytime that's convenient for you for your business. But typically, someone in your stage of business is looking to grow in a sense of growing a team. You may want to interact with payroll. You said, key thing I think we all should distinguish. He said, I'm also self-employed. A lot of people claim to be entrepreneurs, but actually they're self-employed. What I'm trying to say is you want to take yourself out of the business of doing the day-to-day operations so someone else can do it. And for example, you know, his business can still be ongoing as he's getting more business acumen in a setting like this. So we want to, if you want to go for more capital, we want to see if you have your capacity to hire an accountant to handle the bookkeeping side. Is that technology that can assist you to make your day more efficient, make your life more efficient? You can also live a dream you want to live. Also, if you want to go out to grants and funding, you have to have a business plan that's solid. Certain grantors or grant rewarders want to see your business plan and what it looks like certain years out. They want to see if you have a balance sheet, cash flow. So you can bring wherever you are and we can say, okay, this is where you are, and we can help you create those things so that you can have everything in a row, ultimately to continue to grow, and you can have a business that you operate instead of having to do all of these, wear all these hats all at once. So you just take a picture of the QR code, we set up a consultation, and we go from there.
Okay, we've had our third panel members join us, and we'll introduce her in a second, but I think there was a comment here.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows about the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. So Morgan State, in combination with Johns Hopkins and the Baltimore County Community College, hosts that program in Baltimore, in Maryland. And so if you own a business and have been in business for a couple of years and you have revenue around $90,000 and have yourself working in the business and maybe one other, you're eligible for this training program. It's a very intensive, excellent, millions of dollars was spent to develop the program and the curriculum, and it's free. And the application process is pretty easy. And so please, if you want, I think of it as like getting a mini MBA, you know, master's in business in a couple of months. And it's, you do like one intensive day, like every 2 weeks for a couple of months. It's a fabulous program. It's not for everybody, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew about that. In addition to the fabulous business consultants at Small Business Development Center. And there are other places in town where there's free training, and be happy to talk more about it during the breakout.
Okay, and I think Mr. Ray had something to add to that, and then we'll get to Ms. Davis.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up one program. It's called ICORP. It's the I-CORPS. There's a cohort coming up in April. It's a 4-week program, pretty intensive. It has to do with market discovery. So it's, you know, certainly student teams are welcome. Emerging entrepreneurs are welcome too as well to sign up for it. It really involves talking to and actually educating you on the process of talking to folks in the supply chain and customers, et cetera, to try to figure out whether you have actually created the right product for that respective market. And, you know, you're going in is you're not telling them what you're selling. It's more like, what are your needs? You know, what are you currently doing? And how will that need be addressed? And it's a very intensive program. I just wanted to bring that up. Certainly, if you're interested in that, you're welcome to catch up with me.
We'll be around after this session. So, Ms. Davis, talk to us.
All right, my apologies for being late. So I'm coming from the Greater Washington, DC Urban League. I was formerly with Greater Baltimore Urban League when I was invited to speak today, but I'm speaking from both lens. We both offer the Entrepreneur Center. And in that space, we partner with a lot of the resources that are up here with the SBA, SBDC, Goldman Sachs. But what we do is we offer the same type of entrepreneurship support for the Black and brown businesses. And what that looks like, if you have an idea and you don't have any business plan, the Urban League supports that. We help you work through that idea and say, okay, how do we put this idea on paper? How do you generate revenue? And that's a whole series of cohorts. So that's both DC and Baltimore. Now, if you're interested in either one of these classes or locations, I'm gonna give you both websites. It's www.gbul.org and gwul.org. Okay, so say you're past the idea phase and you have been a seasoned business owner. So each of the urban leagues have their specialty. Baltimore and DC had the specialty of supporting the food and beverages industry, so our restaurants, our caterers. And what that looked like is there was a designated cohort. Most of our businesses are great at preparing a great meal, creating that experience, but they may need support in the accounting, marketing, knowing how much their items cost, the supply chain. So many challenges that's come up. The Urban League has come up, it's sponsored by Pepsi Foundation, and what they come up with is this cohort specifically for the restaurant owners and the caterers to say, okay, we're going to coach you through building up your back office support so we can expand your capacity. And at the end of that cohort, they receive $10,000. So then we move into Baltimore was offering a cybersecurity cohort free of charge. And they were offering different certifications. At the end of that, they linked you up with different government contractors, business owners, and talked about how do you transition into that cybersecurity world. And back over in DC, we've been supporting the government contractors. So we have that type of cohort where it's taking you from, you have the contract businesses, but you're looking to scale up. You may be looking to transition from state or local into federal government and helping you support you through that transition. Then we also, our last portion that we offer in DC is around the arts and creatives. So we recognize that our arts and creators came up with phenomenal work, but they may not have been looking at their revenue model and it may not have been creating the business properly. So we support them in those efforts. So again, if you're interested in any of these services, or you may just say, I don't fit into any of those industries, but I do need some type of support, direction, someone to talk to. So both urban leagues, they have a whole list of SMEs, subject matter experts, that whatever you come in with, we can either resource you out to one of our partners or to one of our business coaches. So I'm gonna give you both websites again. It's www.gbul.org and www.gwul.org. Thank you.
So my name is Sonova, and I had a question in regards to the gap between conceptual ideation and intellectual properties. My question is, how does someone who knows what they want in a product or an item protect themselves when they lack the expertise in engineering or manufacturing and cannot identify the process of creation? Like, for example, if I have an idea for an algorithm and the way it should function, does the intellectual property go to the first person to think of it or the first person to create it?
Well, okay, so it's an interesting question because a lot of things have changed with regards to patents. And, there was the previous session where they said, well, if you have something, should you necessarily try to get it patented? But there's this little arms race going on these days, and the current guidance is first to patent. So if you have the idea, sometimes if it's not totally flushed out, you might want to apply, but again, you might be preempted by somebody. It's a really tough question to answer in that sense. I mean, typically in our office, we'd like to have some supporting data before we do something like that. It's not a matter of, oh, here's the idea and just file a patent application on it. So I'm just letting you know what the current guidance is and what some things are done in reality. So as far as algorithms go, I mean, again, you'd have to do prior art search. And that means you just look at what's been done in the past and find out whether you have something that's unique. Because, you know, just as an example, for a lot of the encoding type of things, there's something called RSA. And, you know, they have algorithms behind that. But what's happened over the years is other people have developed other algorithms and they've built upon it and they've actually gotten patents for that. So it's a matter of you finding out where you are relative to that stack of algorithms, just as an example.
So I think we have about 5.
If I can add to that question. Nova, correct? That was a brilliant question and it's really genius. I'm gonna answer it with an example from someone else in history and it'll be very quick. That sounds like a question ahead of its time. And he's talking about building algorithms and winning the property for it. Well, there was a group of Black founders from DC founded domain names in 1979. You can look it up. It's called Network Solutions. Now, they received a single bid from the National Science Foundation, meaning no one else was in competition against them because they were early in the internet days. And they founded this company and they were doing good work, helping people find domain names. Now, they had a lot of struggles and issues in the company. In 1997, they sold it for about $4.8 million. In 2000, the company that bought it sold it for $20 billion. Now, I'm sharing that story to, you know, talk about the importance of understanding your value and what you're creating. And I'll just quote real quickly from that entrepreneur. His name is Albert White. Some of his comments later in life. He said the issue, the capital is needed and needed now. The issue is how to raise it. And that issue became twofold. One is that people did not believe the internet was ever going to be anything of great value. Two, if it was something of value, it was perceived that anyone African American couldn't possibly be on top of it. Now, I know I was out doing my thing and I could sense it. He says it was going to be big. And if it was going to be big, then white people wouldn't have already been on top of it. Now, we got dismissed again and again by white and Black investors alike. So you see the choices he made. Lastly, he said this, and I want everyone to understand this. He says that we have a little reference to our history of contributions to building America. We don't know our history, particularly within tech. We don't know that we come from a long line of inventors and entrepreneurs. So there's little psychological support for today's Black entrepreneur. But we do. We have and we can still create amazing things even in this economy. So I share that to, like I talked about, the psychology of this as an entrepreneur in intellectual property and taking ownership of that. You want to surround yourself with people that are going for more. So hope that helped you.
I think I was given the sign a few minutes ago that we had 3 minutes, so I think now we have about 1. So I was just throw out.
Hi.
You get the last word.
Okay, well, good. I wanted to make a comment. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Andrea Evans. I'm actually an intellectual property attorney in the area, and I worked at the Patent and Trademark Office as a patent examiner and trademark examining attorney. I got here late, but I'm Chico's attorney. But this is a common question, and you know, this is one of the biggest reasons minorities and women don't protect their intellectual property, because you feel like you hit a roadblock. So I do have an answer for you, and it's pivoting on your community answer. There's an organization called the United Inventors Association, and it's free to join. You just add your email, and then it helps you to form a community. They have the DC inventors group. So people say, well, I have an idea, but you can't patent an idea. You actually can't patent an algorithm. You will be patenting the method of going from A to Z, the method of providing transportation, entering in your destination, if this, then that. You know, that's Uber. So you don't patent the code, you patent the method. So what you do is, once you research and find out that you have something, then you should be investing in the provisional patent application. Then when you go talk to someone and say, I have an idea and I'm going to present it to you, when you have that non-disclosure agreement, you say, I'm talking to Bob the builder about my invention in patent application 1234, and then any improvements are still going to be my invention. And then from there, you have this network, this community that he's talking about, and those people can tell you, oh, I work with such and such. You don't have to reinvent the wheel because, like they said, there are a lot of scams in the industry. And it's unfortunate because there are a lot of qualified attorneys that just won't help you because you're too small to them. And, you know, I like to say when I left the patent office and I started, my goal was to help individuals, and it's been fine. You know, I represent individuals, I represent Fortune 50 corporations, and the biggest roadblock is the money, right? People don't have the money to pay attorneys. And so this is good because you've been provided a lot of resources
This is
today.
great information, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
And that's it, that's my comment.
over there.
I wanted to answer because that's a common question. People have ideas, but can't do it.
Understand that.
Thank you.
And I guess, again, many people will be around after this, and if you have other questions regarding that, I'm sure we can get with her after the session. So thank you. You've been a great audience, and we have to honor our time and allow the next group to take the stage. So thank you.